Like much of Central Asia, the area that is now the Republic of Kazakhstan is rich in history. For more than 2,500 years the land and its people have weathered a succession of conquerors, from Alexander the Great to Genghis Khan and Timur Lenk. For much of the 20th century, Kazakhstan was the second largest republic of the Soviet Union and one of the most economically important. Kazakhstan gained its independence from the Soviet Union in 1991. Today, Kazakhstan remains an important agricultural, mining, and industrial center. Area 1,052,089 square miles, 2,724,900 square kilometers. Population 2020 est. 18,755,000. Kazakhstan is the largest state in Central Asia. It is bordered on the east by China, and on the north and northwest by Russia. To the south lie Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, and the Aral Sea. The Caspian Sea borders much of the southwest. The capital of Kazakhstan is Nur-Sultan. Land and climate. The landscape of Kazakhstan is highly diverse, ranging from lowlands to hilly plateaus and plains, to deserts and mountains. Vast grasslands and steppes cover much of the north. The Kazakh uplands, situated in central Kazakhstan, are bordered to the west by the Ulutau Mountains. In the northeast the Altai Mountains enter from Russia. Ranges of the Tian Shan and Dzungarian Alatau extend into the southeast and east, respectively. The highest point in Kazakhstan is Mount Khan Tengri Hanteng Ko Li Peak, which rises to 22,949 feet 6,995 meters in the Tian Shan. Much of southern Kazakhstan is desert. The Bet-Paktala Desert lies south of the Ulutau Mountains, which divide the two large southern deserts, the Kyzylkum and the Muyunkum. Near the Aral Sea on the southern border with Uzbekistan are the Greater Barsuki and Aral-Karakum deserts. Northeastern Kazakhstan is crossed by the Irtysh River, which flows north to Siberia. In the extreme southeast the Ili River enters from China and empties into Lake Balkhash in east-central Kazakhstan. The Ural and Emba rivers enter the country in the northwest and flow to the Caspian Sea. The Syr Darya crosses the Bet-Paktala Desert in the south to reach the Aral Sea. The latter became greatly diminished in area and volume from overuse of its tributaries for irrigation during the second half of the 20th century. The desiccation created a public health crisis for people living in the region. Kazakhstan has a continental climate, with warm summers and cold winters. However, there is wide regional variation in temperature and precipitation. July temperatures can average between 66 degrees Fahrenheit 19 degrees Celsius in the north to 86 degrees Fahrenheit 30 degrees Celsius in the south. In January temperatures in the south average around 27 degrees Fahrenheit -3 degrees Celsius, while in the north they are usually closer to 0 degrees Fahrenheit -18 degrees Celsius. Precipitation ranges from 8 to 12 inches 20 to 30 centimeters annually in the northern and central regions to 16 or 20 inches 40 to 50 centimeters in the southern mountain valleys. The southern deserts get less than 4 inches 10 centimeters of rainfall per year. Plants and animals, grasses, wormwood, and tamarisk salt cedar cover most of the Kazakh steppe. Scrub vegetation dots the sandy and barren deserts. Wildflowers, including poppies and tulips, grow in the plateau grasslands. Kazakhstan has very little wooded area. Coniferous cone-bearing trees such as spruce and juniper dominate the mountain forests. Elm and poplar are found in riverine areas. Kazakhstan's varied landscape supports a diverse array of wildlife. The rare saiga antelope lives on the steppe, as do roe deer, wolves, and badgers. In the hills are the commercially important ermine and sable, as well as brown bears, wolves, and the highly endangered and elusive snow leopard. Elk and wild boar live near the country's rivers and lakes. The deserts harbor jerboa, long-tailed leaping rodents, gophers, and gazelles in addition to reptiles. Birds of many kinds are found everywhere in Kazakhstan. Eagles nest in the mountains, while falcons, grouse, hawks, and pheasant inhabit the steppe. Raptors are especially prized in Kazakhstan because of their importance in hunting. Captured birds are trained to assist hunters in tracking prey. In 2008, Kazakhstan's Norzum and Korgalzhin state nature reserves were named a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Both are important habitats for migrating birds, as well as for many other animal species. People and culture. The Kazakhs were traditionally pastoral nomads. They grazed their horses, sheep, and camels on the northern grasslands during the summer months and on the pastures to the south of the deserts in the winter. In the 1930s, the Kazakhs resisted collectivization of their herds by the Soviet authorities but suffered brutal repression. After the Soviet conquest, many Kazakhs gave up their nomadic life for work on farms and in industry. During the Soviet era, Slavs outnumbered Kazakhs in the country's urban centers. Although this balance has shifted, many ethnic Kazakhs still live in rural and semi-rural areas. Ethnic groups. The massive immigration of Russians into Kazakhstan in the 19th century was followed in the early 20th century by a large influx of other Slavs, Germans, and Jews. For much of the 20th century, Slavs dominated the population. However, many chose to return to their homelands following Kazakhstan's independence in 1991. This, coupled with a high birth rate among ethnic Kazakhs, shifted the demographic balance. In the early 21st century, Kazakhs made up more than two-thirds of the population. Russians constitute about one-fifth of the general population and are the largest minority in Kazakhstan. There are also small minorities of Ukrainians, Uzbeks, Tatars, Germans, Chechens, Koreans, and others. Languages. Kazakh, one of the two official languages of Kazakhstan, is a Turkic language closely related to Kyrgyz. See language, kinds of language. Russian is the country's second official language. It functions widely alongside Kazakh and is frequently heard in everyday usage. During the Soviet era, the use of Kazakh was forbidden. Thus, many ethnic Kazakhs speak Russian better than they do Kazakh. Prior to the 19th century, the Kazakhs had no written language. During the 1800s, Kazakh poet Abay Ibrahim Kunanbay Uli Kunanbayev developed a Kazakh literary language that was written using the Arabic alphabet. After Kazakhstan became a Soviet republic in the late 1920s, the Arabic alphabet was banned and the Latin alphabet introduced. This was replaced in 1940 by the introduction of a modified Cyrillic alphabet, which is still used today. Religions. Religious tolerance is widespread in Kazakhstan. There is no official religion, and the 1995 constitution expressly forbids religious political parties and extremist organizations. About 70% of the population is Muslim. Most of the country's Muslims belong to the Sunni sect, the largest branch of Islam. About one-fourth of the population is Eastern Orthodox. There are also small groups of Protestants, Roman Catholics, and Jews. Religious worship during the Soviet period was discouraged, but rose dramatically after independence. Culture. Culture in post-independent Kazakhstan is influenced more by Russian than by Islamic traditions. This is a reflection of Kazakhstan's more than 200 years of close association with Russia. Because of their nomadic life, Kazakhs traditionally had little written literature. Instead, oral epic poems and songs were used to preserve and share traditional folklore. This changed after the Kazakh written language was developed in the late 19th century. The foundations of modern Kazakh literature were laid in the early 20th century by Akhmet Bey Tursun Uli, an influential newspaper editor, and by authors such as Alikan Nurmohanbey Bokikan Uli, Mir Jakib Dulat Uli, and Magjan Jumabey Uli. These individuals, along with many other Kazakh intellectuals and artists, disappeared during the Stalinist purges that began in the 1930s. See Stalin, Joseph, Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. The traditional Kazakh nomadic life did not lend itself to creating works of fine art such as paintings and sculpture. Mobility was key to nomadism. Families had to be able to pack their belongings and move as seasons changed and better pastures were sought. Kazakhs used folk arts, especially textile work, for artistic expression. Richly embroidered felt rugs and wall hangings were created to decorate the interior of the family dwelling, a large round tent-like structure called a yurt. These structures consisted of a felt covering stretched over a flexible frame that could be disassembled and packed in less than an hour. Traditional Kazakh clothing is also colorful and heavily embroidered. Most cultural offerings today are found in Almaty, the former national capital and the largest city in Kazakhstan. The city has many museums, notably the Central State Museum, which has exhibits on paleontology, history, and culture. There are also many art and history museums in the city, as well as libraries and theaters. The Abay State Academic Opera and Ballet House was the first venue to present opera and dance to the Kazakh general public. Like most Central Asian peoples, Kazakhs are famous for their horses and their horsemanship. Riding and games played on horseback are popular pastimes. Soccer, association football, and ice hockey are among the country's most popular sports. A number of Kazakh athletes have had success at the Olympic Games, most notably in boxing. In the early 21st century, the professional cycling team Astana became one of the most prominent road racing teams in the world. The team was sponsored by a group of state-owned companies in Kazakhstan. Education and social welfare. During the Soviet period, the Kazakh school system was established on the Soviet model, with a Soviet-based curriculum and instruction given in Russian. In 1989, the Kazakh government designated Kazakh as the official state language. In the 1995 constitution, Russian also was officially acknowledged. The process of conversion to Kazakh-oriented communication greatly affected the educational system. The number of schools dedicated to education in Kazakh has increased, while the number of Russian-language schools has declined. The study of Kazakh history, literature, and culture was long slighted in general education but now receives appropriate attention in school curricula. Education is free and compulsory for students between 7 and 18 years of age. Following completion of secondary school, students may continue on to universities or to vocational schools that offer specialized training. Opportunities for higher education are abundant. Most universities and institutes are in Almaty, including the Kazakhstan Academy of Sciences, Kazakh Al-Farabi State University, and many agricultural, technical, medical, and veterinary institutes. In Karaganda, students may attend the Karaganda State University or one of the city's medical or teaching institutes. Social services such as health care, which had been supported and administered by the Soviet government, deteriorated following independence. The result has been a serious decline in public health. Child mortality, already high in the early 1990s, rose even higher in the early 21st century. Infant and maternal mortality rates, though lower than in other Central Asian republics, are higher in Kazakhstan than in many Western countries. Chronic malnutrition is a serious problem in Kazakhstan, as are infectious diseases such as tuberculosis. Although the prevalence of HIV/AIDS is low in Kazakhstan compared to global rates, there were increasing numbers of HIV cases and AIDS-related deaths in the country during the first decades of the 21st century. Major cities. Almaty, formerly Alma-Ata, is the largest city in Kazakhstan and served as its capital until 1997. Nestled in the foothills of the Tian Shan in southeastern Kazakhstan, Almaty is an important industrial center. Its name means "father of apples" in Kazakh, inspired by the abundant orchards of the region. Nur-Sultan is the capital of Kazakhstan. It is situated along the Ishim River in the north-central part of the country. The city, then known as Akmola, became the capital in 1997. The following year the city's name was changed to Astana. On March 20, 2019, the day after Nursultan Nazarbayev left office as president of Kazakhstan, the city was renamed Nur-Sultan in his honor. The city of Karaganda, formerly Karaganda, lies in central Kazakhstan in the middle of the commercially vital Karaganda coal basin. Mining dominates the city's economy, though there are also iron and steel works and other industry. The city's name derives from the Karaganda bush, which grows locally. Shymkent, in Russian, Chimkent, in southern Kazakhstan, is an historic city. Once a stop on the ancient caravan routes between Central Asia and China, the city dates back to at least the 12th century. Today it is a center of industry and culture, as well as an important railway junction. Economy. Agriculture is one of the mainstays of Kazakhstan's economy. Farming occupies some 1/5 of the labor force. Northern Kazakhstan is a major producer of grain, mostly wheat and barley. In the south, cotton is grown on irrigated land. Fruits and vegetables are also produced. Sheep, cattle, goats, and pigs are the main livestock raised. Nuclear contamination of soils near the northeastern city of Semi, the result of Soviet weapons testing, has hindered agricultural development in that part of the country. Kazakhstan has rich areas of mineral deposits. Coal, petroleum, and some natural gas are exploited. Iron ore, copper, manganese, chromite, lead, zinc, bauxite, gold, and other minerals are also mined. An iron and steel industry and the smelting of metallic ores are important activities. Electric power is supplied by hydroelectric plants on the Irtysh, as well as by coal-burning plants. Industry constitutes a prominent sector of the Kazakh economy. It accounts for roughly one-third of the country's gross domestic product (GDP) and employs one-fifth of the labor force. Manufacturing industries produce cast iron, steel, cement, and consumer goods. The chemical fertilizer industry is also important. The country is a major lead and copper producer. Agricultural machinery, electrical equipment, and construction materials are also produced. Fruit and vegetable canning, grain milling, brewing, and wine making are among the light industries. The wide-ranging service sector now contributes the largest portion of Kazakhstan's GDP and employs the majority of its workers. Trade is one of the most important service activities. Kazakhstan's main export commodities include oil and natural gas, various metals, and chemicals. Its primary export destinations are Italy, China, the Netherlands, and Russia. Imports include machinery, metal and chemical products, and foodstuffs. Russia and China are its main sources of imports. For such a large territory, the transportation network is sparse. A line runs from the Trans-Siberian Railroad south to Karaganda and Almaty. Another line from Almaty joins Central Asia with the industrial area of Western Siberia. A line links the port of Guryev on the Caspian Sea with the Ural region. The densest railroad network is in northern Kazakhstan and is used to transport grain. The highway system is not well developed, and most freight moves by rail. The Irtysh, Ili, and Ural rivers are navigable, and there is some shipping on the Aral Sea. The major port on the Caspian Sea is Guryev. Air transport carries the bulk of passenger traffic, both domestic and regional. There are international airports at Almaty and Nur-Sultan. The republic has an extensive network of oil pipelines between Atirau and Orsk and Shymkent and Tashkent, as well as the Uzen-Zetabay-Aktau pipeline from the west. Government. Following independence, Kazakhstan adopted a new constitution in 1993. This was replaced in 1995 with a new constitution that established a three-branched government composed of executive, legislative, and judicial branches. The president serves as head of state and is directly elected by the people for a maximum of 2 consecutive 5-year terms. The president appoints a cabinet of ministers and a prime minister, who serves as head of government. The legislature is a bicameral, or two-chambered, parliament. The upper chamber is the Senate, which has 49 members. Of these, 15 are appointed by the president, and the remainder are elected by regional assemblies. Senators serve 6-year terms. The lower chamber of the parliament is the Assembly Majlis. Of the Assembly's 107 members, 98 are directly elected through a system of proportional representation. The rest are elected by a president-appointed advisory body intended to represent the interests of ethnic minority groups in Kazakhstan. Legislators in the Assembly serve 5-year terms. The highest judicial body is the Supreme Court, whose 44 members are nominated by the president and confirmed by the Senate. There is also a 7-member Constitutional Council, which oversees the correct implementation of the Constitution. History. Over the centuries, various parts of present-day Kazakhstan were incorporated into different empires. The area came under Mongol control in the 13th century. Beginning in the 15th century, the people known as the Kazakhs were able to build a nomadic empire stretching across the grasslands east of the Caspian Sea and north of the Aral Sea. Before the territory was invaded by the Russians, the Kazakhs were organized in 3 major groups known as hordes. These hordes were gradually pushed out of the grasslands by the advance of the Russians from the north. In 1854, the Russians reached southern Kazakhstan and founded the fort of Verny, now Almaty. After the October Revolution of 1917, the Kazakhs attempted to establish an independent state. However, in 1920 the Red Army entered Kazakhstan and declared it an autonomous Soviet republic. In 1936 it became the Kazakh Soviet Socialist Republic. With the disintegration of the Soviet Union in 1991, Kazakhstan declared its independence on December 16. It joined the Commonwealth of Independent States (CIS) with 10 other former Soviet republics and was admitted to the United Nations in March 1992. Nursultan Nazarbayev was elected President of the Republic of Kazakhstan. Successful economic reforms and trade policies reversed many of the severe problems inherited from 70 years of Soviet mismanagement. By the early 21st century, Kazakhstan had become a stable economic force in Central Asia and an important voice in the CIS. In 1997 the capital was moved from Almaty to Akmola. The latter was renamed Astana, meaning capital, in Kazakh, the following year. The rapid transformation of the capital was led by a dramatic construction boom directed by Nazarbayev and fueled largely by the country's growing petroleum reserves. Although Nazarbayev's leadership of Kazakhstan initially had been restrained, over time it became increasingly authoritarian. In 2007 a constitutional amendment was passed that rendered Nazarbayev personally exempt from the standard two-term limit on the presidency. In 2017 he advanced a set of reforms that would give more power to the parliament and the cabinet. After Nazarbayev left office in March 2019, Astana was renamed Nursultan in his honor.